If I got a lot going on and I just want to free my brain, I go on a drive, go out to the country, see the farm, see the animals, stuff like that. And, that's just what I'm on today. I had a bit of a stressful day, and I'm not going to really get into that. I don't want to come on here and make this about me, but more about a lesson that I had to remind myself. If you guys follow me or see my videos before, you know that I make a lot of videos, trying to motivate other people and point them in the right direction. But, when you become one of those people, it's a blessing to be able to serve others. But sometimes, you got to take a step back and do it for yourself, because I don't really have somebody that does that for me, what I try to do for y'all. So I want to just kind of reflect on what the conversation I had with myself, and it's just me being fully vulnerable, fully transparent here. Like I said, I'm not going to get into my situation, but I caught myself having a really, really stressful day, and I felt like it wasn't just the day alone that was stressful. It was the events leading up to the day, the stuff that happened yesterday, the morning, then, the big thing that really threw me off, and then everything following that. And like I said, I'm not finna get into the specifics of it because this video is not about that, but it's more so about the mindset, because I actually caught myself letting the enemy, get in my head for a little minute and, discourage me, kind of get me in a stagnant place, kind of stuck. And I want y'all to understand that, I try to practice what I preach. So while I might have spent a little bit of time in that, I dug myself out of that really, really fast, because I understand that how detrimental that could be to, your mental health, but also your physical and financial and all that growth. It could be very, very detrimental to that. So I need you guys to understand that, stress is just energy without direction. And a lot of people don't understand that the direction that they usually go when they're stressed out is automatically go to becoming angry or, or just sitting there and being so sad or anxious or angry or a mix of all three, and they're not really doing anything progressive towards their life or getting themselves out of the situation that has them stressed in the first place. And I just want to come on here today to remind y'all that we are in power of changing our own lives. Understanding that first it's a mental thing and a spiritual thing, right? Being connected with God and having faith when times are low. Understanding that you can't just lean on your own understanding. You got to lean on God. And that's what I had to remind myself today. And once you remind yourself of that, it's a lot easier to make that mental switch and remind yourself and prepare yourself mentally for what you need to do, how to shift that energy, how to shift it from stressed and sad to, productive and progressive. And that's what I had to do today. And I want y'all to understand that it's okay to take a moment to yourself, but get out that moment. I know people that stay in that moment for days or hours or weeks or sometimes even months or years, and they'll live their whole life around being in that valley, and understanding that valleys are just seasons if you let them be. Understanding that there's going to always be a mountaintop waiting for you, but you got to get back up to climb it. And I know it sounds like some cliche motivational type stuff, but it's true. That's what I had to tell myself today. And I ended up going from, just kind of sitting in my couch, just kind of upset, phone off, not really doing much. And 30 minutes of that, and I prayed and I locked in with myself, and I changed my whole perspective, and my whole task and way that I handle my day completely shifted. Being able to turn stress into systems is leverage. Once you can do that, you can really leverage, because I don't believe that we should sit in times of turmoil or overly stressed out. That's why connecting with God is very important, and having trust and believe in Him, and also having a good, healthy way of managing your stress is very, very crucial. But understanding that stress sometimes can be a good thing in small doses and increments. Sometimes you got to feel that pressure to really take the step that you need to take. And a lot of us, we have this bad habit, even myself, and I've been working through that and praying to God on that, sometimes we might go to substances, whether you smoke or you drink or whatever else it is that you do. You might do that, or maybe it's not a direct substance or something else that's a vice or you're addicted to. Some people are addicted to, sex or stuff like that. And just understanding that you guys are or clubbing. I made a video about that. Some people are addicted to going out and they're just escaping their reality. Whatever vice you're using, it might make you feel better in the quick time, but understanding long term, you're gonna always have to go to that, and you're never gonna have no real clarity or peace or fulfillment. And the only way you can get that is through God. And we all get stressed out, we all go through stuff, but understanding that if you can master the ability to be able to shift the energy of that stress into something productive, that's how you really change your life. Life is going to always throw you curveballs. There's always going to be a situation, and we all know that, even though not to be pessimistic and negative, once there's a lot of good coming, you know, the enemy's going to try to throw us a curveball with something bad. That's just how life works. And being able to handle that and handle those storms and come out on the top is what's going to set you aside from everybody else, because a lot of people, they live their life in being stuck. They live their life in being stuck on trying to decide if what they should do next. Stress is a signal. It's not a problem. And a lot of people, they focus on the problems that come from the signals, but understanding that the signal is the root of the issue. The signal is showing you that something in your life or in your business or in your spirit or in your relationships is wrong or unaligned. And you don't have to just look at, you know, the problem that's giving you that sign. You got to look at that overall and figure out, okay, how can you, as a man or woman of God, how can you go into your life and change your perspective on that? How can you go into your life and change what's negatively affecting you, and the things that you can't control, give it to God? You know, understanding that we're not in control of everything, but we are in control of a lot. So the more you take control of your life, the better it'll get. That's the way that you have to go if you want to get through these valleys, and if you want to really make a change in your life, and if you want to really have a difference on perspective. See, oftentimes us Christian people, we are a lot more confident when it comes to the valleys in our life, in the negative situations, because we know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. We know that God has a plan for us, and even if it's not the plan that we want or exactly the way that we want it, understanding that it's still a blessing to have that and to have another chance to try again, or to even just remain in the purpose that God gives you. So that is what makes it easier. But for those of you that are watching that are non-believers, just understanding that's really the key to it. You know, I'm not here to try to convert you or anything like that, but that's the truth. That's my truth, and that's all I'll ever preach on my channel. But outside of preaching, also just letting y'all know my testimonial. Outside of the way that I handled the situation today, I used to be a very problematic person in life. I felt like my whole life it was just problem after problem after problem, and I really truly felt like I never got a break. And I know it's some of y'all that's feeling me right now on this. That's the season that some of y'all are in right now, and understanding that there's always a way out of that. It just comes with connecting with God, getting right spiritually, and also being able to manage and shift that energy from, you know, stressing out and panicking to planning. And you know, whatever it is that, you know, you're stressing about, whether you're not where you want to be in life financially, you know, stop stressing over the financial issues and the bills that you can't pay, and focus on why you're in that predicament in the first place, and the steps that you need to take to really take that to the next level and be able to, you know, turn your pain into profit. Sometimes you need that pain of going through valleys or having hard months, and that's going to give you the energy that you need to continue to push through and keep going. And a lot of y'all are going to say, okay, well, how do I do this? Where do I go next, right? That's where I had to redirect myself today. Understanding that you have to go from panicking to planning. See, a lot of people, when stressful things and curveballs and problems come up in life, all they do is just panic. They're just worried about the issue at hand, or what they're going to do after, or what they're going to do now, or how sad or upset or angry they are, when in reality, these are our emotions that we can control. Understanding that the circumstances are the circumstances, you know, so not to make it harsh, but regardless, you're going to have to deal with them. Take the time you need to grieve, but pick up the pace. Don't sit here in hours or days or months or years in grieving or in, you know, a valley from a bad situation that happened to you. Like I said, fix what you can control, fix what you can fix, and then give it to God for the rest. And if you're not fixing all that you can fix, well, that's the problem. It's how you're choosing to react to the situation. And I know it's easier said than done, but it's still possible. And that's why I'm getting on here today, to remind y'all of that. So if this is you, my point is, stress doesn't mean stop. Stress doesn't mean sit there and wait for something to happen or to not happen, or to feel like your life is over. Stress just means strategize, and the sooner you do that, the sooner your whole life will change. There's so much more to life than stressing over things that you can't control and stressing over things that God will guide you through. Understanding that the sooner that you make that mindset shift, that's the sooner that everything will change. Understanding that once you change that mindset, now you can really leverage your emotion. Now you can really turn your issues and your vices and the things that slow you down in life into things that are progressive towards your life. When you're in a season where you're really just stressing out and just panicking, take that panicking and all the what ifs and worries and take that and change that into planning. Look at the situation at hand, look at the problem at hand, and figure out, what is that a sign of in your life? What is that a signal of? What is your life telling you right now? What is God telling you right now that is misaligned in your life? And write it down. Write it down on a whiteboard. Write it down on a piece of paper. Put it in your notes. Say it over and over again in your head, and then actually make a plan of action towards that, because regardless, you're using energy. You might be using energy being sad. Even if it feels like you're doing nothing, you're using energy, and you're also using time. And also understanding that stress and anxiety and anger and all of these things, confusion, these are emotions that come from the enemy. These are emotions that come from the enemy to try to get you and knock you off your pivot. And the sooner you can realize that, the sooner you'll be able to start taking those curveballs, and you won't be as knocked off kilter. So I hope this message reached somebody today. Y'all stay blessed.